Welcome to Connecting with Karen Nance. I'm here with Justa, the founder of Curious on Tanzania. Welcome, Justa.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And please help me with your last name and the pronunciation. I don't want to get it messed up.
I know a lot of people always ask me that, but it's Lujwangana, so Lujwa and then Ghana at the end.
I love that. Lujwangana. Thank you so much for that. So you have a travel company in Tanzania. Can you tell us about that?
Oh my God, there's a lot to tell. In June, it's going to be 10 years. So I've been running an experiential travel company. And I started it out of my own curiosities for my home country. But also I had a lot of my friends are like, oh my God, I kept on telling them about Tanzania. You need to come and visit. You need to come and visit. And just mentioning about the safaris and the animals, they're like, what else? What else? So every time I spoke to somebody, they're always telling me, what else? What else? Or like sometimes they will say, hey, I also want to come home with you. That's what I want to do. I want to see the safaris, but I also want to come home with you. So that kept on in my mind. And I've been in the US for probably like a couple years. But like I was not as familiar to Tanzania as I would have liked to. The reason why we called it Curious on Tanzania, it was, of course, out of my own curiosities, but also the curiosities of others. We made it where, hey, let's go back home together and let's discover it together, all together. So that's how Curious in Tanzania came about. 10 years ago, I knew nothing about travel, nothing about tourism. But my uncle has been in the tourism industry for almost like, at that time, almost like 30 years. So he's the one who actually was like, hey, my daughter, you need to come and see the other side of the of your country. Took me, my mom, and like 6 other of my siblings and my family members. We went on a safari. It was almost like a 10-day safari. And we saw and we saw and we saw. And then we ended up in Zanzibar. And it was like an eye-opening experience of like, oh my God, this is my home country. But my uncle paid for everything. He was like, you must. And that was like, I am so thankful for him because he showed me like a different perspective, which most people would not give you that advantage. But he was. And the first time I brought guests, he had died a month before that, which when I was bringing the guest, it was so sad. I was like, I'm crying and I'm like, but he's watching me. And the rest of the family is like, oh my God, we did it. You did it. But it was just the honor to be able to follow up. He died probably like 5, almost like, no, I think I was like, because like it took me a while to be able to actually bring the first guest, maybe like 3 or 4 years to bring in the first guest. But once I started bringing them in, that's when he passed on. But then I've continued ever since, and I still have the support of my family and extended family members to guide me along. In the US, I was doing a lot to learn about tourism because I did not know nothing about it, never went to school for it, but it was just because of my passion. So that's the short version of the story.
That's very touching. And your uncle did know that you were planning on getting the tour company together. So he did know that, right? Prior to his passing.
No, no,
He didn't.
no. Prior to his passing, yes, he knew, but he did not know to what capacity I was going to take it to.
Right.
Because he did show me about the safaris, but about the questions that I got from a lot of my friends, which is I also want to come home, I also want to experience it, which that portion of it, that's what we call it, an experiential travel company instead of a safari company. So experiential travel is like you want to go and see just beyond the safari. You want to experience the local culture. You want to experience some people like they work for like NGOs and they want to learn about the nonprofit sector, or musicians, or like photographers. You just want to come to a country and just observe as much as you can on particular things. And that's what's called experiential, instead of just doing the safari, which is just animals by themselves and just hanging out in Zanzibar and just enjoying the beautiful beaches. But there's more. So like that's how I ended up creating the company that focused on what else and what is that more and who am I when I come to the country, especially for like African Americans visiting for the first time on the continent. It's like you are here, you're like who I am. So when you go back in the country, when you go back anywhere on the continent, it should give you that perspective of who are you and where are the people that are like you, which is a tribe, who is a part of my tribe. So that's how when we're planning trips, especially for African Americans, we focus on
Mhm.
who are you and how could you see yourself in that particular tribe.
Wow, that's wonderful. Can you tell us like the length of most of your trips that you take? Because you've been doing this for over 5 years, would you say? 5, 6 years that you've been taking groups with you, or longer than that?
Yeah, a little bit longer. So the typical trips are on an average of like 10 days.
Mm.
And 10 days will incorporate, like, of course, doing the safari experiences, but also cultural experiences, but also learning a lot about history, our own history. We do have a couple of free days in between where, of course, somebody needs to kind of like have that reflection day of like just reflecting all together on what's happening. We do have people coming into Dar es Salaam, which is our capital city, to kind of be able to observe even more the urban experiences. So it's a combination. We have people also coming on the super luxury experiences, doing yacht experiences, like cruises and like all of that. They could be able to do while they're in the country. So we travel just beyond.
So there's a lot of variety that you offer through your company then, right? So it's whatever. I'm sure people need some advice on what they want to do, or what's available, because there's so many things that are available in Tanzania, right? And you've already shared with us the safaris and the beach, and there are different things. How large are the groups, would you say, that on average, and what's the smallest and the largest group you've taken?
The smallest group, I mean, was it was one lady. Her
Mm,
name was Sharon. She was 70 years old.
wow.
She came during the pandemic.
Okay.
And she was like, I need to be in Tanzania. She had gone to West Africa and like 6 other countries. So Tanzania was her seventh country at the age of 70.
Wow.
And she was like, I must make it. And so we had other groups that were supposed to come with her, like 6 or 7 other people were supposed to come, but they ended up canceling. So she
Mhm.
ended up being the only one who came. She arrived at the airport, and I love picking up people at the airport, especially if they are just one person. Like I'm making my goal to go with the driver to pick them up from the airport and kind of like give them that welcome home experience.
Wow.
So went to the airport to pick her up, and I found her in a wheelchair. So I was like, pandemic, she has a mask on, she's 70 years old, and in a wheelchair. I was
Oh
like,
my.
oh my God, Miss Sharon, because I've never met her before in my whole entire life, never met her. We just spoke on the phone and that was it. And I just looked around. I was like, oh my God, I am in trouble now. And as soon as I reached her, she had this big smile on inside her mask, but she was still smiling because you could still see her eyes. She's smiling. She's like, Justa, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. This wheelchair was only to just get me here. Don't worry about it. I'm walking with the cane. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm fine. So I was like, okay, don't worry about it. So we got in the car, and then took her over to a hotel. And we just kind of like because it was the pandemic and the trip was going to be very hectic, and when I saw her, I was like, okay, we need to make adjustments to this itinerary. Spoke to her, we made some adjustment to the itinerary, and then made it my appointment to kind of like make sure I take her everywhere. I did not want her to kind of intermingle with like too many people. So I just did a kind of like a one-on-one experience with her. We went to the museums, we danced, we did so much. I actually have a YouTube video. I should have shared that with you guys. But like she had the best time of her life. Did Zanzibar also with her, and she just enjoyed it. She was so thankful. She came back probably I think 2 years later. She got a stroke. But
Mhm.
like she always calls me and like she's like, that is the best decision I've ever made. So
That's
Miss Sharon,
wonderful.
yeah, Miss Sharon is from Philadelphia. Yep, she was just amazing. She was a sweetheart, with the kind of like a southern accent on her. But she's just amazing. She's like, Justa, you remember that trip that we went on? That was the best thing I ever did in my whole entire
Oh,
life. So that
wow,
was
that Heartwarming, actually, really heartwarming, especially during the pandemic and the challenges. Wow. And I know that you have a special place in your heart, and she has a special place in her heart for you as well. But you also do something in New York when you're home, right? In June, you do
Right.
the Tanzania Fest. Can you tell us something about that?
Oh yeah, that's the fun part. That's the extra fun part, I should say. So I love putting experiences together. And like almost like every June, this was even before the pandemic. That's actually when we did like a lot of events. It's kind of like bringing the Tanzanian experience to New York. So we have a lot of people we have some people who have traveled to the country, and some people who have never traveled to the country, and then some people who are curious to wanting to go to the country. And they're all concentrated in New York and everywhere else. So what do? We just bring the whole experience to them. But like it's a good and then we also have like NGOs and all of different kinds of people who also are supporters or friends of Tanzania, also the Tanzanian diaspora. So that day in June is just that 1 or 2 days to kind of like, let's celebrate everything that has to do with Tanzania. But it's been such a success. We have almost like 500 to 600 people who end up showing up, and it's all about food, music. My mom helps me a lot because she's very much interested in when it comes to like performance and performing art. So she brings groups to be able to perform. We have food, we have conversations around just Tanzania all in general. We support different NGOs through raffle tickets. So it's like a lot that happens on that Experience Tanzania Fest. So we just kind of curated it to kind of like remind people of the beauty that they went and saw, but then also for those people who have never been, it's like, hey, we're here to support you and to kind of like guide you through your experience.
That's good. For those who don't know, can you tell us what an NGO is?
It's a nonprofit organization.
Okay, so is it non-governmental organization? Is that what the initials stand
Yeah.
for? Oh,
Yeah, non-government organization. Yeah, I always say nonprofit. Yes, non-government
it's
organization.
in the States, it's called nonprofit, right? So
Yes,
I would
yes.
love at this point to share with our audience one of your many videos, and people know how can contact you through Instagram and YouTube. But I would like to take this opportunity to share this wonderful video that you've had that tells us more about you and the experiences that they can share in going to Tanzania. So stay tuned.
I'm Justa, and I was born and raised in Tanzania. I moved to the United States at the age of 12, but each time I come back, I notice something different and I notice something new, and it just grabs my attention, and I want to like showcase it to everybody. I want to tell all my friends about it. I want to tell my friends how beautiful like Tanzania is, and they should be able to come and enjoy it and see it the way I see it, or the way we Tanzanians see it, because it's amazing. Like all together, like Africa is beautiful. It's a beautiful place to come visit. And my journey right now with Curates on Tanzania is basically to showcase what Tanzania is all about in my own eyes, and also to just give a different perspective on what Africa is all about. It's not just about us not having enough food to eat, or us being poverty according to what people say by it. We are rich in some other places. We are rich by our land, as you could see. We are rich in like so many different places. So more emphasis on just being just people getting out there, people traveling, and people coming to see like Tanzania all together. And that's what Curious on Tanzania is all about.
video. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we saw?
So that video, oh my God, I shot it actually, like the interview portion of it, I shot it in my village in Bukoba. And we were driving and driving and driving, like in the middle of it was just fields of just like grass everywhere, and it was so beautiful. And we got to the hill, and I was like, oh my God, I have to do an interview here. I have to showcase this side of the country. And so like I decided, I was like, okay, let's do like kind of like an introduction of Curious on Tanzania. I think I shot it a couple years ago. When I look at it now, I was like, oh my God, look at me. But it was just for me to just express just express how I see Tanzania, how I think other people see Tanzania, what I've heard, and then how Tanzania looks like, and why they should come and visit it.
So you also, I think, in the video talked to us about, people think safari is just animals, but you tell us that it's more than just that. So can you expound on that? What is a safari? It's not just seeing animals in the wild, is it?
Yes, a safari trip. It does involve the game drive, which is, of course, seeing the animals. That's the game drive. But yet also, it's very, I would say, spiritual. But then it's also kind of like, because like you're in the middle of nowhere and it's like very, very remote. Sometimes your cell phone does not work. Sometimes like you're disconnected from everything. So when it comes to like mental health, I think going on a safari will be one of those places that will just like help you to zen out and just like look at nature and just appreciate the rawness of like nature. But then also, as like, especially for millennials, it's also all about fashion, what you wear to the safari. So like when you're getting ready to go on the safari, you always want to go shopping and get like your best khaki outfits, like your safari gear outfits. So that's also fun. But also experiencing like all the tented camps, the lodges, that's just even more amazing. There's a lot of tribes that are there, like the Maasai's, like visiting the Maasai's, getting to know about their culture, experiencing them, buying jewelry from them. So it's a lot that happens during the safari during the safari trip.
And you have a trip planned for July this year, is that right?
Yes, we have a trip planned. It starts on July 11th and it goes into the Serengeti, Serengeti is actually one of my favorites. I was there 2 weeks ago, but I can't wait to go back again. So climb Mount Kilimanjaro for a day, do Serengeti, Ngorongoro, Tarangire. Those are all national parks. Ngorongoro is the 7th wonder of the world. Serengeti is the 8th wonder of the world, or vice versa. But we do have those. Mount Kilimanjaro, of course, is the tallest mountain in Africa, 2nd tallest in the world. And then, of course, you're going to be headed over to Zanzibar, which you'll be able to enjoy the beautiful beaches of Zanzibar, but also learn about the history. But of course, that's just the highlight of it, but there's a lot that happens inside it. I'm going to be leading the trip, so definitely expect to have so much fun, and expect a lot of storytelling around like different places where you visit.
Wow. And how can people get more information about the upcoming trip in July?
They could reach out to us on Curious on Tanzania. On Instagram, it's very easy, or like everywhere else, or like our website is Curious on Tanzania.
Awesome. So parting words, because I'm going to have you back because I want to hear more about these fabulous trips. But in terms of do you have a date yet for the June trip? Not the June trip, the June Tanzania Fest in New York. Has that date been set yet?
So we are still making the arrangements. Venues are very hard to find, but it should be on June 7th. Hopefully that's Saturday. I think that's the Saturday, June 7th. Okay. Yes.
And it's an all-day function?
Yeah. It's going to be
is it open to everyone?
Yes, it's open to everybody. It's a ticketed event, but it's very minimal. So it helps us to kind of like cover the cost and make sure that we have that event happening. But like it's a great, a lot of people have like praised about it, and it just gave them back memories of when they traveled. And for those who want to travel, they would just like, oh my God, I think I want to go now. That's what it will do to you.
Well, it's good that it's before the July event, because hopefully there'll still be room for people that want to make that trip in July. So
Oh,
I so
definitely.
much
Yes.
appreciate you. And we have your contact information on Instagram, and there are many more videos on Instagram and YouTube that I encourage people to see. And I'm so excited to have you, and I want to have you back. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing your wonderful experiences in your home.
Thank you so much. I'll leave you guys with a song, if that's okay.
Of course.
And then I'll explain it in because I sing it almost like every morning. Then I'll explain it to you what the song means. So the song goes, wait, where's my voice? So the song goes, Museno ndigamba muchi kubenchanjivamu abange barichukira kochi kubenchanjivamu wange. So the song goes, in this world, what am I doing? In this world, how do I want to be remembered? In this world, what am I doing? So I sing it every day. And for me, I want to be remembered for the love of my home country, but also the way we kind of help people to kind of discover the country. So I want to leave this to the audience. Like, how do you want to be remembered, and what are you doing to contribute towards that? So that's it.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And it was extremely touching. And now I'm going to play this video over and over, because I love the information that you've shared. And I'm so glad you shared this with our audience as well. So take care, everyone, and visit Curious on Tanzania. Thank you, Justa.
You're welcome.